everybody, and welcome to the Houghton Heroes Fantasy Football League Videocast. I'm your host, Dan Livernoy, and we head into Week 8 this week of the fantasy football season. It is officially the halfway point for the year. Teams are pretty much set in the way they're going to play out the rest of the year, and just a couple notes going into Week 8 that I've noticed. This is the most active waiver wire period in the history of Houghton Heroes League. I did some research, and 8 teams participated in waiver wire pickups Wednesday morning, the most that has ever participated at one time. I went through the archives of the league, and 8 is the most. It beat it by 2. The most previously was 6. I think that might have something to do with 8 teams being on bye this week and people trying to shuffle their roster, try and get an edge on a lot of injuries that happened in Week 7. And speaking of Week 7, a lot happened in the games and the standings for our league, so let's just dive right into it and recap Week 7. In the matchup of the week between Jake and Holly, it turned out to be a big one. Jake ended up beating Holly 85-63, winning the coveted most heated rivalry in the league trophy. It was a big one. Not many people had Jake coming into this favored to win. I certainly didn't, but it definitely turned out differently than what most people would have thought. Jake got a huge game from new acquiree Andrew Luck from Kyle with a score of 29 points. Also big games from Fred Jackson and pickup right before the game happened. Peyton Hillis, 13 points each. Another 13 points from Jermichael Finley, who happened to be hurt seriously in his game on Sunday. We hope he's okay. Heard news that he's up walking out of the ICU. That's good news. Not really much help from anyone else other than that. Single-digit points from everybody else. He still amassed 85 points, enough to beat Holly with her 63. Other than Peyton Manning scoring 25 points, everyone else was in single digits. Not a very good winning formula. She left some huge games on the bench. 11 points from Gronk coming back. I don't know why she sat Gronk. He's the only person Brady has to throw in that offense. A big game from him. Another big game from Eric Decker and Jaquiz Rogers. That was pretty much the story of this matchup. Holly leaving all the points on her bench that would have won her the week, but it consequently did not. It just goes to show you, you always start your studs. Your team has gotten you this far for a reason. You play your team as they are. In the battle of the Andrews, Drew took out Benda 112-98. Winning the There's Only One trophy. Benda was on a 4-game winning streak, one of the hottest teams in the league coming into this. Drew was at a measly 1-5. Didn't really have a chance in many people's eyes, but he managed to pull this one out. I consider him my minor league team. I gave him a lot of the players that he has on his bench, and those players pretty much won him the game this week. He had a big game from Russell Wilson. But no Sean Moreno, Ryan Matthews, and Jordan Cameron all getting double digits for him. He got a lot of double digits. He scored 112 points from the Jets. AJ Green, a huge game against Detroit. He's finally breaking out. He was my number 1 wide receiver coming into the year. Starting to look like it. Like I said, double digits from Ryan Matthews. No Sean Moreno. Eddie Lacy, another strong game against Cleveland. Another double digits. Huge in the win. Very pivotal. As for Benda, RG3 got the start with Breeze on a bye. Came through with 25 fantasy points. Marshawn Lynch also got him 15. 12 from Danny Woodhead. He's looking to be like a really good pickup out there in San Diego. And 25 from Vincent Jackson. Definitely not feeling the burn from a change in quarterback down in Tampa. Not much other than that. Stephen Ridley on his bench got him 11. Ben Roethlisberger, 12, but you start RG3 in that matchup. Andrew is definitely the best Andrew. Week 7 found myself winning for a 6th straight time against Carl's Goon Squad, 76-63. It was the closest matchup this week and probably the most disappointing. Neither team really performed at all well this week. and it was pretty ugly from the start all the way to the finish. Cam Newton finally had a decent game for me, 14 fantasy points. Matt Forte really saved my ass with 28 fantasy points against the Washington Redskins. 3 touchdowns was huge, definitely made the difference. Jordy Nelson caught a touchdown pass, 10 points. The 49ers D held Tennessee in check with 13, but theme of the week, not much more than that. Only one player on my team scored more than 5 or more, and that was Heath Miller from Pittsburgh. Not really much help from the bench either, except Harry Douglas in his first game as the starting wide receiver for the Falcons came with 20 huge fantasy points. Probably going to start him next week. As for Carl, outside Phillip Rivers, who got him 15, nothing else there. Everyone under double digits except for Cincinnati with 11, and the kicker for Denver, Matt Prater, with 10. Again, disappointing week for both of us, yet I get the win 6 in a row. In another anticipated match of Week 7, Kavi was taking on Kyle, and he got the win, 113, squashing Kyle's 76 like a grape. Matthew Stafford, now the number 2 fantasy quarterback in fantasy football, getting 26 points against the Cincinnati Bengals in a shootout at Ford Field. Jamar Charles and Frank Gore, double digits again. A huge running back core. The strength of Kavi's team, getting 15 and 22 points respectively. And another 19 points from Jordan Reed. He's become a huge tight end pickup for Kavi. Definitely paying dividends off the waiver wire there. Not much more than that. 8 points from the Dolphins. That's pretty surprising. Other than that, not much for the 113 points. As for Kyle, traded for Matt Ryan, does not play him. He continues to leave points on his bench, and it kills him. 22 points for Matt Ryan on the bench. Other than that, 16 from Chris Johnson against my 49ers defense. That was pretty surprising. Didn't see that coming. DT, Demaryius Thomas, 14 points in the loss against Indianapolis. 13 for the Seahawks, 10 for the kicker from New England, Steven Gostkowski. Nothing more than that, contributing to the 76 points Kyle got in the loss. And rounding out the week, we had Steve upending Simon's team, 118 to 78. Simon now leading the race for the Sacco, drops to 1-6 behind a good effort from Tony Romo and Des Bryant, 12 and 11 points respectively. He had good points from his tight end, Julius Thomas, 10, the Chiefs defense, 10, and Robbie Gould, the kicker from Chicago. He also got 12, but it wasn't enough to hold off Steve's horse racing team of goodness, I guess you could say. 118 points, really strong performance from Aaron Rodgers, 23 fantasy points, 13 from Terrence Williams, pick up from Dallas, the wide receiver, 27 from Megatron. Huge game, opposite of A.J. Green in that shootout there at Ford Field. Definitely paid the dividends there. Almost picked him up in a trade. I bet Steve is pretty happy he did not trade him this week. 17 from the Panthers defense. They're proving to be a huge defensive force this year in fantasy, and it's paying off for Steve. 13 from the kicker from Seattle, Steven Hauschka. Pretty much Megatron made the difference in this matchup, along with Aaron Rodgers finally performing like Aaron Rodgers. Steve's moves to 3 and 4. Not much help in his division. Everyone's pretty strong there. But again, Simon now winning the race for Sacco at 1-6. And speaking of the race for the Sacco Award, we have now no longer the front runner, Drew, on the phone. Andrew Blake getting his second win in a row, actually moving his team to 2 and 5. Andrew, how are we doing tonight?
This is the rise and ring back tone while your party is reached.
Apparently, we don't have Mr. Blake on the Sacco moisturizing hotline. Remember that our great sponsor brings all of our guests to us on this videocast. But speaking of the halfway point in our league, we have co-league manager Steve Rivard on the Sacco moisturizing hotline. Steve, how's it going this evening?
Going great. Holly is in town, and we're gonna go party with Drew. It's gonna be great.
Sounds like a great night.
Watch the football game.
That's right. It is Thursday night. We have Thursday night football going on the NFL Network. I'm a company man.
Tampa Bay.
That's right. The Carolina Panthers traveling to Tampa Bay to take on the winless Buccaneers. But for now, let's talk about the Houghton Heroes Fantasy Football League. First off, again, we are at the halfway point. How do you think, as league manager, the season's gone so far?
Well, I think we've all been surprised that Kyle's team, the football guys say there's a 100% chance of me making the playoffs. It doesn't look like that now, does it, Kyle?
No, it doesn't. He's on a losing streak of 3 in a row now going into Week 8. And I must remind everyone that in my preseason video, I did predict that Kyle would not make the playoffs, not tooting my own horn, but a projection that I have coming true. But any other thoughts?
And then another huge surprise was Holly, who we all thought was like a potential Sacco, is in third place, I believe. And then Cobby's team has done really well. Like, and it's not only that he's not been scored much against, he's got one of the highest scoring teams in the league. And I think people thought he would do well, but I didn't think anyone would think he'd do that well. And then your team as well, Dan, was like, I don't think anyone saw it as being as strong as it is right now.
Well, I appreciate that, Steve.
So,
but yes,
you did.
I always do. I must say that. But
otherwise, no surprises. Jake doing horrible. Benda's auto draft team doing surprisingly well.
That's right. As a league commissioner, you have the ability to make some rule changes. And I wrote down a couple rule changes that I think could help benefit the league next year. One of them could be affected this year. I do think we should put an asterisk next to Benda's record because technically he did not draft his own team. So I'm not sure if he deserves his record. What do you think about this?
Well, that would cause, I know, some drama from the past because the season that Holly won the championship, she actually did not draft her team. So you would have to deal with that. Oh, she does not sound happy from the other room. I just told the truth. Are you fucking serious? Yeah, this is my time for interview, not you. Fuck you. Speaking of rules, before we continue, that reminds me, anyone listening to this video, we need to establish the Sacco rules. And 2 people still need to vote on the trophy, even though it's locked up for the Kathy Williams.
Yes.
But the asterisk thing, we would have to discuss whether Holly would have to have one too then, if we did it from not drafting your own team. I personally do not think it should have an asterisk because you make your waiver changes throughout the year and stuff. And oh my gosh. And I think that Benda has done a good job with his waiver pickups and stuff, so like, I don't think so. Your fucking bills. And I'm sticking up for you right now. Anyway, on to the next. What do you think about it, Dan? Sounds like you're a proponent of the asterisk.
First off, yes, like Steve said, everyone should put in their inputs for the Sacco Award. League rules, as always, brought to us by our great friends and sponsor, Sacco Cream. Great moisturizing freshness for your sack. I merely proposed that as a joking matter just to see your idea. But honest rule changes, we do not have an IR slot. What do you think of adding one for next year?
Oh, yeah, I think actually that Javi and I had discussed putting one this year, and like it sounded like the league wanted it, but it was just kind of like it slipped through the cracks thing.
I see. Finally, another one.
I think we would definitely consider doing that for next year.
I see. And finally, another rule change that I thought about bringing up is the fact that trades have to be reviewed for a matter of 2 or 3 days. Now, this sometimes does cause some troubles with the Thursday night games and with rosters being unlocked, players being unlocked. What do you think about eliminating the review period and as soon as a trade is accepted, maybe having a 1-day limit, a half-day limit, or no limit at all to open up the players immediately?
I think that's a really good idea because I've thought about that. It's frustrating in the past, the trade limit. And I was just thinking as you were talking, like a 1-day limit would be more effective. And so you brought that up. So yeah, I think changing it to a 1-day limit would be a very good idea. Because, yeah, 3 days, like, it's just you're just waiting, man. You're like, all right, come on.
Exactly,
So, yeah,
and
really good ideas. Yeah.
And Steve, with the season being half over, we now enter the final stretch into the playoff run. What do you think the rest of the season is going to play out like?
Oh, this is the most exciting time. I love it. All right, so I think that Holly's bench has actually been surprisingly strong. I thought it was going to be really weak, but she's gotten lucky with it, so I can see her continuing and making the playoffs. I see you and Kavi's team making the playoffs. By the way, it's a huge matchup this week, both of you facing off. It's going to be a good one. And I think the fourth spot is definitely up for grabs. Honestly, I see Benda and I fighting it out for it. I just think Kyle's team is going to start losing. Actually, Carl's team could pick it up, I think, too. Drew, I think, is going to win a lot of games, so he could actually steal it away if he's lucky and things work out like to his, if like the other people in his division lose. But I think Jake's pretty much screwed, and I think Simon has just lost too much and doesn't have the running back depth to make it. So I don't know. I'm just hoping that my team will keep representing.
Yes, thank you for the prediction, Steve, and thank you for joining us tonight, and I hope your night goes as well as it is planned.
Thank you very much. Thank you for calling.
You're most welcome. And everyone remember...
Don't forget, we need to make our Sacco rules, everybody.
Yes, everyone make Sacco rules, and remember that Steve is brought to us by our great friends at Sacco Cream. Steve joining us on the Sacco Moisturizing Hotline, our great sponsor here at the Fantasy Football Houghton Heroes Videocast. Everyone get your rules in. And with Steve's predictions for Week 8, we now lead into my predictions for week, starting with the matchup of the week, myself, the Sacco Cream Aloe Veras, against Kavi's Speed 2 Cruise Control, two of the most confusing names in the league right now. First off, the Sacco Cream Aloe Veras. We all know that we have a great sponsor in Sacco Cream, and they, during my bye week, 2 weeks ago, they contacted me and wanted to sponsor a team. They wanted to sponsor a winning team, one that gets their name out, and one that they can be proud of. And they looked throughout the league, they searched far and wide, and they rested on my team on a 6-game winning streak. The first year in the league, I placed second. I am a strong contender for the playoffs currently. They decided to back me. And with this sponsorship, I get all the Sacco Cream I want, which is kind of funny because I'm never ever going to be the Sacco, probably even really be in contention for the Sacco position. So I'll promise just to send the fine product from our great sponsor onto the Sacco Award winner. Actually, out in the woods out there, Benda is a current Sacco champion, and you have a crate of Sacco Cream on your way. So back to the football. Myself against Kavi this week. Matchup of the week. The two hottest teams in the league. Kavi is predicted to win this one with the ESPN predictions, and I must say I agree with them. First off, the bye week hurts my team immensely. My 3 starting running backs in Forte, Foster, and Trent Richardson are all on bye, which severely hurts my team. I have to play 2 running backs, which I pick up off waivers, which is never a good thing to do, especially since I have the number 9 waiver position this week. But looking at the matchup, Kavi starts Matthew Stafford against Dallas. That's going to be a huge game for him, a shootout. In Ford Field, I expect Stafford to get a buco amount of points. Jamal Charles against Cleveland. I think we need to hamper his expectations a little bit. Cleveland is a good defense. Although Jamal Charles has been an MVP this year, and I think he continues a good start. Frank Gore against Jacksonville. I mean, cake defense. Victor Cruz and Giovanni Bernard, a lot of them, both of those players have been absent as of late, and I think it continues. Bernard against the Jets, Cruz against the Eagles. I don't see much happening this week for those guys. Blackman against San Francisco, he's hurt right now. I think we should hamper expectations for him. Jordan Reed against Denver, I think he's been playing huge, and I think he continues. He's a good tight end. RG3 looks for him a lot. As for my team, Cam Newton plays against Tampa Bay. But that's all I'm going to say about my team. I may or may not play anyone this week. I might just forfeit the week to Kavi. Don't really want to give away anything in a potential matchup in the playoffs. Don't want Kavi to do any scouting of my team, formulate a game plan, know what my team is all about. So keep your eye on my team this week to see if I finish with a goose egg or I try and stick it out and take down Kavi this week. Elsewhere in the league, we have Holly's Peyton Yo Ass Green against Andrew Benda's Camp Whoop Ass. Each team coming off a loss this week or last week. I think that Holly's going to get the win here. Her barrage of Denver players, I think, takes down Andrew Benda's team. They're coming off a loss. Denver is. They're playing a weak Washington defense. I think this is huge points for everyone on Denver. Adrian Peterson's hurt with a hamstring injury. I think this might actually linger for a while. I think we should hamper expectations. He's had 2 games in a row, single-digit fantasy points. He plays Green Bay, a division rival. He'll be motivated, but I'm not sure how much this hamstring lets him go. Le'Veon Bell against Oakland. He's been a strong young player coming off his Liz Frank injury, and I think he gets double digits here. Rob Gronk, playing against Miami for New England. He's pretty much the only person Tom Brady has to throw to. I think he continues double digits from him in a strong week for the win with Holly, but Benda's going to put up a great fight. Drew Brees, home against Buffalo. I think he picks him apart. A big game here. Ridley against Miami. Don't look for much there. Lynch against Seattle. It's a good matchup, although I don't think he's going to get as many points as what everybody thinks. Vincent Jackson against Carolina tonight. Carolina's got a good defense. If their quarterback has time to throw for Tampa Bay, look for Vincent Jackson to have a good game. I don't really see it happening. Vincent Jackson, I think he gets maybe 10 points. Greg Olsen against Tampa Bay and the Saints defense against Buffalo. Not really good matchups here. I don't see them scoring many points in the loss for Benda. Carl plays Jake this week. Jake coming off a win. Carl coming off a very disappointing loss from my team. Carl's team has the ability to bust out at any time. And I think it happens this week, actually. I think LaShawn McCoy coming off that loss against Dallas, against the Giants, I think he has a monster game and is actually the best running back this week in fantasy. Alfred Morris playing against Denver. I don't see much this week. They're going to be throwing a lot, Washington will, and they don't like Alfred Morris really in the pass game. Eli playing Philly. Philly's got a terrible defense, and Manning is known to throw it out just like his brother. I think he does, and I think he actually has a decent game here. Sproles against Buffalo coming off the bye. Look for a nice passing attack from Sproles. Larry Fitz against Atlanta. He says he's kind of healthy, and I see a big game from him against a questionable secondary from Atlanta, as well as Tony Gonzalez having a huge game. Harry Douglas got a lot of the passes last week, and I think they look to Tony Gonzalez this week more. I think all these contribute in the win for Carl, where he beats Jake. Starting Carson Palmer against Atlanta. I don't know why you would start Carson Palmer. I know he's the only quarterback you have, but I still would pick up maybe even Geno Smith. I mean, you got to start somebody. Geno Smith has been better than Carson Palmer. Why don't you do that? Andre Ellington, I wouldn't start him either. Fred Jackson, I mean, you got to start somebody, so I guess you'd start him. He's actually been a top 10 fantasy running back, and I think this week he is top 10, although his points aren't as high as usual. James Jones is not going to play this week. Get him out of your lineup, Jake. This is why you aren't any good at fantasy, because you start people who aren't even playing. I'm done. Jake, you're gonna lose this week. I'm done with you. In another anticipated matchup, we have the Brood Marcer placing the Diddled. Steve against Kyle. Steve coming back from a win, and Kyle's on a 4-game losing streak. No one could have really predicted, except myself, this to happen this year. Kyle is really on the downfall, actually challenging Jake's team. in the standings to be the worst. Finally starting Matt Ryan is Kyle, and I think it pays off against Arizona, although they do have a good defense. They like to air it out, and I think he's going to get a lot of points. Lamar Miller starting, MJD starting. Not really much from these running backs as usual. MJD playing San Francisco, not see it happening. Lamar Miller's in the timeshare with Daniel Thomas. Although New England is susceptible to the run, I don't see a lot from him. Marcus Colston, I think he actually breaks out this game. Look for him. Jimmy Graham might not play this week, and if he doesn't, Marcus Colston is your guy. I think he gets double digits for you finally. And that was a good pickup. DT against Washington, huge game. Denver's going to throw it. Josh Gordon against Kansas City. He's pretty much the only guy they got, so I think he's going to get double covered and not get the points for you. Jason Witten against Detroit might have a mediocre game for you. He's playing Detroit. They have pretty good linebackers, can cover the pass. Look for the wide receivers to have a big game for Dallas, not Jason Witten. And I think all of this plays into the loss Kyle gets to Steve. Aaron Rodgers against Minnesota, division matchup. He's playing inside at Minnesota. Huge game. Although James Jones isn't playing, I think he has a big game anyway. Reggie Bush against Dallas. Look for him to have a big game too. DeMarco Murray, he's going to play, but I don't expect him to be full 100%, and I think this hurts him in fantasy. I think he gets less than 10 points. Terrence Williams, I think he gets another touchdown. The guy's a great wide receiver too, opposite from Dez. He's been getting the throws, and I think he continues to get them. He's going to get the points. Calvin Johnson, I think he repeats from last week in a shootout. Dude's bonkers. Dude's money. Megatron. You got to start him. Hakeem Nicks has been doing nothing. I would sit him, Steve, if I were you. Luckily, you're seeing this podcast before Sunday, so do it. Sit Hakeem Nicks. He hasn't done shit. He's going to continue to do shit. Vernon Davis against Jacksonville. I think they're going to run it a lot in San Francisco, but if they pass, he's going to have a big game. And the Panthers D against Tampa Bay. Dude, number 3 defense in the league. Huge pickup. Big points there. Steve, you get the win. Kyle, 5 losses in a row. Get it together. And finally, this week, another anticipated matchup, but this one is between Sacco contenders 2 and 5, Andrew Blake, coming off a 2-game winning streak, mind you, against the Pez Bryants of Simon Johnson, losing 2 in a row, bottom record in the league 1-6. The points projection is really close here from ESPN. The slight edge to Drew, and I think Drew gets the win, putting Simon even farther behind in the standings in this Sacco race. Russell Wilson against Seattle, they want to run, but I don't think they'll be able to as much. Seattle with Jeff Fisher is a smart team. He's a smart coach. I think they'll stop the run. He'll get some passes out there, get a lot of points. Eddie Lacy against Minnesota, big game. No Sean Moreno, Washington. They'll be up a lot. I think they want to pass, but I think he'll get a rushing touchdown. Big game. Mike James against Carolina. Dude, don't play him, okay? Obviously, Tampa Bay sucked at running the ball with Doug Martin. Now he's hurt. They have Mike James. Mike James wasn't even good enough to start. Now he's playing for a team that couldn't even run with a better running back. Now he's playing. Why would they start being able to run the ball good? Or well, they can't do it. Don't start Mike James. Please, whatever you do, start Ryan Matthews. Just whatever you do, don't start Mike James. Start a wide receiver. He's not going to do anything this week. AJ Green against the Jets. They got Antonio Cromartie, but he's been hot lately. I think he'll get a lot of points this week. Greg Jennings, don't start him, even though he's against Green Bay. And Josh Freeman sucks. Don't start him either. Jordan Cameron against Kansas City. They don't really got much going for him. I think Jordan Cameron gets double digits this week. The Cardinals against Atlanta. Pick up another defense. Pick up somebody. Just not the Cardinals. They're not going to do well. But Blair Walsh, he's a good kicker. And for Simon, you're going to lose this week, but Tony Romo's going to have a big game. Darren McFadden against Pittsburgh, sit him. He's not going to do much. D'Angelo Williams against Tampa Bay, he might actually have a good game this week. This is the last week before Jonathan Stewart comes back. I think he might get a touchdown if Mike Tolbert doesn't poach it, but he might have a decent game. Steve Smith, only two wide receivers in the league have more red zone targets than Steve Smith. I think he gets a touchdown here. He's a good game. Dez Bryant against Detroit. A decent game that might double coverage him. I think Terrence Williams has a better game than Dez this week. Decent game. Antonio Brown against Oakland. I think they're going to run a lot. Maybe not much for him. And Julius Thomas against Washington. Big game. Despite all this, I think you lose. You go to 1-7, and you're winning the Sacco race by 2 games. The win for Drew. And that wraps up my videocast for this week. As always, the Houghton Heroes Fantasy Football Videocast is brought to us by our great sponsor, At Sacco Cream. Sacco Cream. Got an itch you need to scratch? Well, irritation has met its match with Sacco Cream. Proud sponsor of the Sacco Cream aloe veras. Projected to win this week, Sacco Cream is proud to sponsor my team and this videocast, and they want to thank everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed what you saw this week. Good luck in Week 8, and we'll catch you next week.